So with a lot of the stories that we've been doing recently being pretty serious, I thought it'd be fun to take a break away from the serious tone of a lot of these stories and just focus on something fun, focus on something different. And so what we'll be doing is we'll be talking about Thor, who in the What If universe became a Herald of Galactus. So the What If universe they're basically alternate universes. They're stories whereby events would have transpired in a different way, or sometimes events that have never happened would actually end up happening. And so with this story, what we do is we pick up with Galactus as he's arrived at Asgard. And Galactus, of course, is doing what he does and stating that he intends to consume Asgard. And so his herald, which isn't actually given to us, we don't really know what her name is, begins, attacking Asgard along with the Warriors 3 in a way to basically eliminate any kind of resistance that exists here. And so what happens is that Loki initially tells Thor he has to stay behind, that he has to help Loki figure out a way to destroy the machine of Galactus so that Galactus cannot consume Asgard. But Thor says no. Thor begins attacking Galactus alongside the Warriors 3. And so as a result, Thor is successful in killing the Herald of Galactus, and he basically challenges, issues this kind of statement saying that there really aren't any battles that he's faced that can't be won. And so what happens is Galactus offers Thor the opportunity to become his herald, and Thor initially says no. He says that it would basically defy everything that he stands for regarding Asgard, but Galactus points out the fact that there really isn't anything left to stand for with Asgard because Asgard's been almost entirely destroyed. And so what Galactus says is that if Thor chooses to become his herald, that Galactus will leave Asgard and that he will never return. Pretty much the same kind of circumstance we saw with Norn-Rad and Galactus in terms of Norn-Rad becoming the Silver Surfer. And so what happens here is Thor undertakes the role of becoming the Herald of Galactus, but as he's traveling throughout the cosmos, what we find is that he's basically picking planets that have very harsh forms of life, that he's not picking planets indiscriminately. And what Galactus says is he knows that Thor's been doing this, but the problem here is that Thor picking, going through and weeding out only specific kinds of planets pretty much prolong the hunger that Galactus has in the sense that Galactus will eventually just start grabbing planets at random as opposed to picking the planets that Thor chooses because Thor is making Galactus wait in order to feed. And so what happens is that while Thor is, effectively serving as the herald for Galactus, that he receives some information from one of the crows of Odin. And what the crow tells him is that Loki, and during the absence of Thor, has basically seized Asgard and that he's killed Odin. And so Thor initially tries to leave. He tries to tell Galactus that he's going to travel back to Asgard, but Galactus says no. Galactus says that Thor's agreement was for the protection of Asgard, but not protection of Asgard from anybody other than Galactus. And so what Thor says is he basically challenges Galactus here and saying that either Galactus can let him leave or Galactus can kill him as he tries to leave. And so Galactus, not wanting to kill Thor, simply lets him go. And so once Thor arrives back at Asgard, he confronts Loki. And Loki, of course, again is working along the Frost Giants here, which is pretty standard for the actions of Loki whenever he's working with anybody in particular. And so what Thor says is that Loki's destroyed everything that Asgard stands for. But what Thor also realizes is that once he enters the funeral room of Odin, that he finds his hammer still there. And he picks the hammer up, realizing that not only is he able to wield the hammer of Thor, but that he's also able to, he's still in possession of the power cosmic. And so as a result, he has hitherto unchallenged abilities in relation to Loki. And so what happens is he begins to combat Loki, but he also says that he'll have help. And so once the members of the Warriors 3 are freed along with various other Asgardians, we also see that Galactus arrives. Now this is where things get really interesting. What Thor says is that because Asgard has basically been destroyed by Loki, because there's really nothing left of the honor of Asgard, he basically abandons it. And so what he does is he leaves Loki to his fate, and he tells Galactus that he can consume Asgard. He also has the Warriors 3 take all the other Asgardians and send them to the planet Earth. And so what happens when he's asked whether or not he's going to be traveling with anybody, he simply says no. He says his side is, his role is now at the side of Galactus, and he continues about being Galactus's herald, presumably leading Galactus to other planets throughout the cosmos. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and bring this video to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, let me know, and I will catch you guys later. Peace. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. There you can keep up with all the updates from Comics Explained and talk to me directly.